And so I really saw, like as you said, capitalism as the driving force of this country. When people were outwardly saying, hey, arbitrarily we're going to come back Easter. Arbitrarily we're gonna come back, end of May, beginning of May, end of May, then middle of June, and then July 4th, and it's like, well, we don't have a vaccine. No. People are still dying. Like, what does it mean last week versus this week? There's no difference. It's just more businesses are going to be, obviously going under, and the stock market and things like that. But it really underlined that America is just built not only on capitalism, but then also the foundation with the racial divide and discrimination. That's also now at the forefront. And I think that's very interesting. The foundation of this country is really boiling up to the top. And the two things that are in the news right now is capitalism or lack of, and then racism, and the fact that we're trying to fight that. So I thought that was
a beautiful way. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like you say, capitalism, looting even is capitalism when you think about it. People are capitalizing on this time and looting and taking what they can. So even at the base of that, that's why when we focus on this capitalism, maybe with the looting with these protests too, maybe that side's not the best. But like when you talk about capitalism, that's straight there. When you said that, like even in our protests, we're still capitalizing in it in any way that we can. And like you're saying with the coronavirus and with what's going on in the news, it's been 100 years since we've had like the Spanish flu. It's been almost, it's been time since we've had a revolution. History repeats itself. Like you can't argue with that. So it's just kind of like, it's crazy that 2020 is the year where everything
I feel like it's really interesting because I was thinking about it in preparation for the show, and I was like, is it coincidental that this is happening, while people are really desperate as far as can't pay their bills, a lot of people they don't have food on the table, they don't have a job, their businesses that they've invested all their savings in is gone, or they like one girl I know, she quit her other job in preparation for a new job. But that new job just told her, oh, by the way, because of COVID, we're going to delay it. And then eventually they cancel her onboarding. And so people are at this point where not only do they feel like they can't do anything, but they feel like the government also cannot do anything. And then if you're black on top of that, especially a black man, I told my brother, I was like, drive carefully, because he's the kind of guy that he'll just, I'm like, Andre, this is not the time to be pulled over. You are a 24-year-old boy. Like, no. And I had to have this conversation, and I cried after. I was like, wow, this is really coming home, and it's not like something on the news or something there far away. Like this guy, George Floyd, he was born in Houston, right?
Absolutely.
I
was familiar with him.
Yes, you were. Wow. Tell us about that. How seeing your childhood friend
Well, he wasn't a childhood friend, but he was someone that I lived in the same area with. We lived in Third Ward, and Third Ward is endemic of pretty much every minority community in this country being beset with gentrification or regentrification, being beset with low-performing schools that are purposely and intentionally designed not to effectively educate the youth that we are here to serve. And seeing this brother on a consistent and constant basis in the convenience stores and other community centers, it was always a sign of respect. And one of the things that I think about is the benign neglect that not only the government gives us, but we give ourselves, and we don't take the time to really spend the essential, necessary, quality time to get to know each other. We're just so quick and fast in the hustle and bustle, and that's what you were alluding to, is that this pandemic has caused us to have to slow down and begin to deal with some things that have been going on since the beginning of this country, even with the slave patrols and many of the things that have manifested that now you call police officer. Those things have been happening and occurring, but now we don't have as many distractions. Sports is gone. There's not a new movie coming out. So now you have to begin to deal with what's really transpiring, what's really happening, and the undertone and the undergirth that makes this country tick is the fact that people are being exploited, so that when we see Brother Floyd, when we see him, we just see him as a black man, and we don't see the struggles that are connected to being a black man. We don't see and understand that you can drive as careful as you want. You still will be pulled over because you are going to be racially profiled. Not only when you drive, but when you go in the store, you break your bike. You see, so this reality that we're living is also connected to our health and our well-being. So when we talk about food deserts, and I call them food apartheids, and I'll close out with this because I think it's important, there is food. but it's not food to add to life.
Right.
It's food to destroy life. So that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with so many constructs that are constantly bringing down our quality of life. And now we see these things transpiring. Now we're saying, wow, what's going on? What is 2020?
Right.
What's happening? This is a crazy year. Let's get rid of it. Let's go back to 2019.
Right.
But no, 2020 is about seeing a clear vision.
Right.
And that's really what this is about. Seeing a clear vision of what this country is, or I'll close with, as Childish Gambino said, this is America.
Clear vision.
So I had a question. So when in the wake of the protests, right, Donald Trump, our president, he had this quote. He said, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, right?
Correct.
And that was, I think, a quote that was.
Shootings been started.
Yeah, I think it came from 1967 during, like, I think I wrote it down, but by a Miami police chief, Walter Headley. And so when he said that, he obviously came back, and his family members also were like, "That's not what he meant. That's not what he meant." But what did you feel like when he said that? You know, when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Add something. What was interesting is they are investigating who started the looting, and they believe it's a white police officer.
Really?
Yes.
And that's another thing that I feel like, and I know I'm going over my own question, but you know, a lot of times I feel like black people are painted to be the instigators, painted to be the aggressors, and quite obviously we've seen with George Floyd, a grown black man, you know, being kneed to the ground by 3 people on him while he's saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe" for 8 minutes. You know, it really does show the aggression of white people as well, you know, where we're in this kind of vulnerable state, and you can still see that and then he killed the guy, you know. And so it really makes me, and then we have this president, that's what I was kind of, you know, segueing into, that doesn't really care. He doesn't really show any kind of leadership. You know, cynically speaking, Trump could have used this as a platform to reach black people in America. Obviously, he doesn't have that kind of political agenda. You know, he can't even think in that. You know, because I could have seen that. Oh, this is his publicist.
He could even capitalize on this. Not saying that he should, but
right.
He definitely could.
And he didn't even do that. You know, but then he's using things like, "Oh, when the looting starts, this is what's going to happen," and it's a harsh reminder that we don't have leadership.
If I may, I'd love to say this, and I didn't mean to cut you off, Brother Dion. I'd be quick, but I do want to say this because I think it's important.
Yeah.
See, as Malcolm X said, if you don't control the media and understand the media, it'll have you believing that those who are your friends are your enemies, and those who are your enemies are your friends.
Right.
So when we talk about looting, many people are saying, "Well, why did they hit the target?" I'm like, "Well, it's target. That's the mark." But the thing is that we're missing the target. The real looting has been done by Mark Zuckerberg. The real looting has been done by Jeff Bezos. The real looting has been done by those billionaires who have made, since this pandemic, $484 billion. That's the looting that we're not seeing.
Right.
We see a target get destroyed by possibly a weatherman that you talked about, you know, an informant or an agent. But either way, the destruction that's done to that target pales in comparison to destruction that's being done by people in a pandemic. And you're seeing Amazon begin to tap into even more power. And those mom and pops that are being destroyed, people are not looking at the power and the impact that Amazon has in destroying them.
And even when Target has insurance, trust me, it has insurance, they get looted, they're actually getting money. This is like check. Think about it. When you crash a car, you're like, damn, I crashed a car, because guess what? You're gonna get a check. The same thing happens for Target. So like even with the looting, we need to make sure we don't go to any mom and pop shops, because the pandemic, everything is trying to kill essentially the American dream, which is small businesses, which is right now, and the community, our black community is just getting there now, because we have been pushed back, because from 1950, 1960, we haven't had the opportunities to build, but now we're finally building, and now black businesses are popping. What's popping is small black owned businesses,
especially women like yourself.
Exactly. And so that's why it's so crazy. As these begin to grow, it's like everything's fighting against it so it can go down. But when you think about it, who's the top of the 1%? Is it anybody who looks like us in that 1%?
No, absolutely not.
Right. And then during the early, I think the first day of protest, there was a CNN reporter with his team, Omar Jimenez. I believe, and he was he was
CNN,
arrested. He had the camera on and everything. You know, he was arrested, and then he was finally let go and released. But then, you know, and I heard this from the CNN reporter who was reporting this, that there was a couple blocks away the same type of crew, you know, reporters, CNN, that did not get arrested, and I couldn't help but think, what was the race of that person?
Right.
Because this guy is a black guy. They probably didn't know that he was CNN. I mean, I don't know if he was wearing all this
He had
gear.
credentials. He told them.
He actually did tell them. And that's
wearing it. You can see it.
And that's the blatant disregard. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter who you are. You're black, and if you're black in this country, it comes with a stigma, and that stigma is never justified. It doesn't mean anything, but it's taken with such a, not even a grain of salt, with a huge amount of salt. And that is such a debilitating thing to think about when you're having kids or you're raising kids, and you're, as I said with my brother, and I have a younger brother who's 11. You know, having to sit down and say, this is what's going on. You know, this is what it means to be black in this country. And I wasn't originally from this country. I was born in England, and you know, my friends were telling me, and I saw in the news later as well, UK is also having a protest as well.
Absolutely.
You know, and I see this you know, solidarity between black people now all over the world, and I want to see where this goes. And that was what I was kind of alluding to in my first question. You know, how can we make this different? How can we make this change permanent, so that we're not back here in 10 years and 15 years, and even if we are back here, it's with good cause, right? We always can revisit a situation, but you know, how can we actually push the envelope and get change in more, you know, in a less temporary way, a more permanent way, to help us and help our children or our grandchildren in the future?
I feel like our grandchildren will be good. Like most of this protesting are from young people, so they already have that reformed mind. It's an older generation that is stuck in that. It's actually like a generational like hold on this racism. It's a generational.
It's like we're breaking the generational curse.
Yeah.
Well said.
So the way that mostly like people on TikTok, like TikTok is just like throwing out all the videos of like protesting and all this other things, and like they have this movement of like blackout where they're only supporting like black people on the app. And it's very interesting because representation is a very big thing in breaking racism, because the artificial intelligence that is in charge of screening on TikTok has images of like police officers and like black people, and if you post something like that, then they block your account. And so I was on live with my little sister showing them pictures of her art, and she has one art of like a black man, and there's a pig trying to shoot the black man, and the bullet ricochets and almost hits the pig, which is dressed up as a police officer. And within 10 seconds, my screen went white. And they're like, you're blocked for 7 days. And it said the reason why was juvenile content.
And that's what I'm saying.
We think about other countries, how they censor us, and we don't even know our own censorship. We think we're so free and we're not censored, but you just talked about here.
But TikTok, is it an American thing or is it a Chinese country though?
They're using American, but
those restrictions shouldn't apply to Americans anyway.
So one of the things I'd like to add to answer that question is that a good friend of mine who's the president in Austin of the Young Professionals, and he says this all the time. He said, we have all the resources we need in our community to solve our own problems, right? We keep looking outside for help to protect our own communities, to have our own communities thrive. But right here in this room is a meeting of the minds, and we all have a space in which we can be the most impactful into moving this conversation forward and what's best for us. And it's just time that everybody comes to the table. I think what you're seeing right now, I had an event today where we had young professionals from all over Texas that were joining on this call with the 3 chapters across Texas, right? And during the call, you know, we made a call for membership. I said, you can't just be on the sidelines anymore. You can't straddle the fence. You have to choose. You either choose yourself or you're choosing your destruction. One or the other. What are you going to do? And I'm telling you, membership started popping across all 3 chapters, right? Because people are tired. And now we bring all these young professionals to the table. And it's like, man, bring your talents to bear. And we're going to solve our own problems. And then once we solve our own problems, people are going to realize that, you know, that we are in a state where they're going to realize that they should have had the conversation with us that we've been begging for for hundreds of years. So I think that's what we have to do.
Yeah, definitely.
So we actually are going to go on a short break.
Okay.
We'll be coming back to continue this conversation and then also talk about Tom Austin, who was the guy that basically said people cannot, black guys should not have been in the We Work gym. He basically called them out, like, why are you guys here?
Yeah.
There's that guy, and then our famous bird watcher, Christian Cooper.
Karen.
We talk about him as well. So we'll be back anyway to continue on this topic with Dion and with Sad. This is The Gist with Issa and Grace. And our guests are also Faith as well. We'll be back.
Wow, you guys got some great...
Hey guys, this is The Gist with Issa and Grace. Again, joining you with Dion and with Sad. So, during the break, we had Faith kind of... Yeah, a really interesting story and interesting perspective. Do you want to kind of talk about what you were saying?
So I'm biracial. I'm German and Sudanese. So because of that, I was raised by my mother in a white household. My mom is as far right as you can get. You know, I'm sure she voted for Trump, and I'm sure she stands. I haven't talked to her since all this gone on. I don't even know where she stands on this, but I was raised in a household where, like, when I go to school, you know, and you check off the papers, my mom would mark me off as white. But the school would send it back because I don't look white. And they would say this isn't correct. And it isn't. You know, I'm a biracial child. And she constantly, you know, as I grew up, like, I naturally love Tyler Perry. Like, if my passion would be to be one of his things, she'd get mad at me. She's like, you're not black, Faith. You're raised in a white home. Like, why are you watching this? Or, you know, even musically, like, I would have to sneak certain things just because she was so gung-ho. You're raised in a white home, you're white. You know, I love my grandfather, I love that, but, you know, even slurs they make. You know, I grew up in West Virginia where I've gone to places where I was a kid and another child wouldn't be allowed to play with me. This is in the 2000s, mind you. This isn't like way back then. I'm only 24. So, and then even then, I go in a grocery store, and people would have swastikas on their arms. I cannot even tell you, like, I'm like 9 years old, and the chills I felt seeing that. I don't even really know what it means. But you can feel the energy. And it's just so crazy because people don't understand, like, this is something we really do face. And
it's
like,
a game. They think it's like
not
a game of power and ego.
And it's not, oh, you're just black and you just be like this. Like, you know, I have a lot of friends who are different races too, and, you know, they'll be like, oh, well, you know, other people were enslaved too. I say, yeah, but you won't get the disrespect we get. I walk into a room and someone will disrespect me simply just because of my skin color. I don't even get to open my mouth, even like in serving. So I was a retirement home, and again, very segregated, like very white area. You know, I remember there was a lady who wouldn't speak to me. She would speak to every other server, but she'd let me take her food. She let me be the servant, but she wouldn't give me that respect. Because when I was like 16.
Even me as a nurse, I would get declines in patients.
And that's something that we really do have to talk about. And like, even with the rioting and everything, I think there's a correct way to do it. You know, like, I think, yes, it's good that we went and we protested. Should it have rioted? No. If the police enforce a riot, yes. Should we be looting? I think that's hell no. I don't think we should be looting. But the rioting, I think if the police started, why should we, you know what I mean? There's more of us than them. So in that sense, the riots, I understand that. And I get that. And I get why we're so frustrated, because think, all this is pent up inside of me. We don't even talk about it because we talk about it and we get shamed. Even with my some of my friends who aren't black, if I don't even ever bring it up because I don't ever want to be, oh, you're an angry black woman. You know what? No, I'm love, because that's all we are, is a vibration of love. But I've been seeing hate. So what more can we? You know, like, what further can we do that? When love is not enough, it's like anything. When you can't talk anymore, you sing. When you can't sing anymore, you dance. So when they won't hear us protest, I guess we have to riot.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the fact that, you know, you shared that. You are powerful. Your story is meaningful, and I think that that's the thing, is the narratives, right? You know, many people, and it brings me up to think about even your experience with your mother. I think about the education that they received. You know, going back to even police officers, think about how they're being paramilitarized, meaning that in terms of when they deal with African American and minority communities, they're not taught to de-escalate. They're taught to how to get out of, you know, aggressive situations. In terms of somebody gets killed, this is what you write up to beat the case. Because 90% 90% of them beat the case.
Yeah.
So right. And then even in this instance with Brother Floyd, they're sitting up here talking about pre-existing conditions. We all have pre-existing conditions of some sort, right? But that somehow led to his death. And it almost begins to lead us away from the 8 minutes his breath was being able to be taken away from. And I bring this up to go back to your question that you had before break about solutions, is I think that from a macro level, we have to become educated to understand that these things don't come out of a vacuum. They come out of an education and a miseducation that leads us to believe that inferior people are dark-skinned people, right? And superior people are white people. When in reality, all of those things are fallacies used to stratify and to keep, as we mentioned earlier, the economics and the racial groups divided, right? So we need to get an understanding that will lead us to better unify. And then from a more granular level, programs like this that get the gist of things, so that we can have those tough conversations, that we can have those hard conversations that everyone knows needs to exist. It's the elephant in the room, right? But because we've been conditioned and trained to believe delusions, believe fantasies, and to believe in a dream, we're living a nightmare, right? And it's not until we begin to have these tough conversations, and then to begin to not just sit around and have a barbecue and eat some ice cream, but to have some accountability, and to have the ability to be able to change and transform our communities. I'll close with this. We're the ones that we're waiting for, and there's no more time to wait or waste. We have 86,400 seconds, 1,440 minutes, and how we use that time will determine our destiny. And I think it's important and it's imperative that we begin to look back, as Sankofa says, that means to look back and reflect. And then not to look back with shame and fear, because many of us have been conditioned that black means that you're a slave, that you didn't have a history, that you didn't have an understanding. No, there were scientists, there were engineers, there were doctors, there were philosophers that were prisoners of war, that were taken by sick men who were looters and raiders and wanted to destroy and take out the humanity of a people. But in spite of that, we still move forward. And today we're still moving forward with our humanity, with our integrity, with sagacity and tenacity and intensity to be able to live out the creed of America, which is all men are created equal.
You should be a pastor.
I got chills you saying that.
Because that's one of the problems, people want to.
Yeah, but the one thing I like is that you have that zeal and that energy, And so another person that was that's black and that was also, I don't even know what to say, but he was walking through the park. The woman, I think her name is Amy Cooper.
Not Karen?
Not Karen. And she was in the park. Her dog was kind of acting crazy. He was there watching the birds and told the lady, hey, your dog needs a leash. That made her become, the sign was right there, exactly, and that made her become erratic, and he pulled out his camera to start recording. She started basically saying, threatening him that if you keep recording, I'm gonna call the cops and say that there's an African American man, threatening my life and my dog's life. And as she's doing this, her dog is still acting erratic, and when I saw this,
he asked her to follow the rules.
Yeah,
and put her
but
dog
when I saw this, it's just funny because that dog that was acting erratic, it was like a symbol of the woman, of the owner. As she was trying to lie on this black man, he just had his phone, he was just recording, and to be honest, if you had heard that, I'm sure a lot of people would have believed her and been like, oh my, because she sounded like she was also erratic, and then you saw the dog as well, feeding off of that energy. And I was just looking like, wow, there's so many things you could pull out from this beautiful park. This man was doing a beautiful thing during his pastime, instructing her to do the normal thing. Just okay, yes sir, thank you. I'll go ahead and do that. It turned into this awkward exchange. And then she was battling with the dog. The dog was acting erratic, just as she was. And then the camera cut. And it's just interesting where there was no end to that, And so symbolically, I looked at that video And, you know, it was in the news. Obviously, you know, George Floyd has now, you know, taken more of that. But it was just such a symbol to me that woman and just that exchange with that man. And I don't know, what did you think about that?
And it was incredibly heartbreaking to watch that because, you know, they were looking at it as, oh, you know, she was lying. I was like, no, that was attempted murder. And that's exactly what that situation is. If he had stayed in the park, nobody would have saw that video until after the fact. But if he had stayed in the park, he left. But if he had stayed in the park and the police had arrived and they were still there, he may be dead today. And we may have another name added to the list in which we are talking about. And that is the scariest thing is that, you know, my father, my parents, they raised me to say, these are the rules, follow the rules, you know, do your part, right? And at least if you can be beyond reproach, then you are, right? You're okay. But these people that keep telling us to follow the rules, they have the privilege of moving the rules or bending and stretching them as they see fit. And when they're ready to, they can then weaponize those rules against us in order to justify murdering us. Like she literally sat there and put on a whole dramatization that was, if I had not seen it with my own two eyes, I might have believed that she was in jail.
Right.
And let's not forget the fact that not only was the dog taking on her energy, but she was actually choking the dog. Like she wasn't even paying attention. All she wanted to do, she had in her mind that she was angry at this person, and the only way that she felt that she could fight back in that space was to get him killed.
You know, I have to say.
Thank you, Indigo. Indigo just joined us. Indigo LaFace, she is another host as well.
Yeah, I saw the video. It's crazy because it's like, oh, sorry. Yeah, I saw the video. So they did a background check. Apparently, I guess he was like a bird watcher. He was like on a documentary. But then you see another clip, and she was just like, oh, I'm gonna call. It said I must have like an African American attacking me, and he has you on film, so you wouldn't think like you catch yourself.
That's what I was gonna
say. And you like look at your dog, like your dog is sitting there dangling for dear life. I'm like, my poor dog, he gonna die before the African American can. It's like that's sad. So,
and you know, I, this is a wonderful conversation. I have to say this, and I love your point, and everyone's perspective is so beautiful. But I think it's really interesting to think about. If you listen to his voice, he was please don't come to me, please. He was afraid of her. He was the one that was being victimized. And that's what we're not looking at, is being a black person in America and really anywhere in the world. You can go in London. It's you already are guilty. You already are a criminal. That's why we have to teach it. And the perceptions of others that have been trained and conditioned to do that. So the Karens, they are taught as children. They're taught as children. If you see someone black, you must automatically assume that they are guilty. And then you find what they're guilty of. And then you run the program that was ran in Tulsa, which they destroyed, Black Wall Street. A white girl saying that she was violated by a black man. Because a black man in this society, it means you are already criminal. All we have to do is find what you did. And if we can't find something, we make it up. Right? So I'll close with this. And I think it's important for us to understand is that we must redefine our narrative and stop accepting the narratives of others. If you look, and you talked about 50 in the 60s and 70s, we have changed more names than the damn, I don't even know what you want to call it. But if you sit back and look at someone who's 60 years old, they started out as a Negro, then they went to black, and then they went to Afro-American, now they're African-American, now we're melanated. So the narratives have changed so much, right? But in the narrative of white folk, you still a nigga.
But and what you're saying is very true, because if there's the book, The Four Agreements, we make an agreement in our mind, and whether you agree to it or not, subconsciously it's in there. You have to break your own agreements, and it talks about that. We have this agreement that this is why my mom probably so much wanted me to think I'm Caucasian in my mind, because she knew maybe she, you know, like I'm gonna give her, maybe she's trying to protect me, but she was trying to say, you know what, I want you to be under this, even though it's not gonna happen. I'm, you know, like. You know, maybe it's because she understood the stigma that's there. You know, maybe she was trying to change the agreement in my mind, but that's wrong, because my agreement in my mind isn't that. My agreement in my mind is I'm a beautiful black being. The fact that I have melanin, the fact that we even get to experience this. We experience life in a way those people will never experience. You know, the way we have to see it in our agreement is we're so superior. The higher power, whatever you believe in, God, Allah, Buddha, whatever, the universe. they give you the trials because we can handle it.
Right.
Because
Right.
we can resent it.
Right.
You know, we're melanated because we can go handle the sun.
Right.
So we
Go
can
magic.
handle the fire.
Right. That's funny.
You know,
We can handle the sun.
Whatever we go through, we can
That's
remember this
powerful.
as a people too while we're protesting. What we're put in front of us, whether they're killing us or not, we can handle it because we are powerful enough to uprise and take that. Like we did way back when we were fighting slavery. Like we did when they were taking us from our people. We'll rise again. We're meant to rise until we rise to our highest.
I like that.
Yes,
And one thing, you know, when I was talking before the break about the WeWork situation, for those who don't know about it, but it was just basically this guy. He had said a white guy. He was in the WeWork building, which is an official, like a commercial space, and that his company rents. And so he was in the gym, and then he saw 2 or 3 black men, and he basically was like, "Why are you guys here? Do you guys belong here? You know, basically saying that because you're black, you don't really work here. You know, you're just using the gym, like these
It's like
athletes
the
do."
modern day segregation. There's
Right.
certain, like, for example, Randall's, Whole Foods, all these places
Oh
where
my
the
gosh.
prices are very much inflated based compared to like Walmart
Right.
or any other grocery stores.
Right.
And so they expect, because I'm paying $5.99 for these bananas instead of $4.99
I
at
shouldn't
Walmart,
see any,
I shouldn't see any black
any
people.
colored people at all. And so when I watched this one, you know, it was another symbolic thing for me because, you know, I work in corporate America, you know, and it's just I've had, not in my current job, but you know, in my previous jobs, I've had that kind of look. You know, like, why are you at the cafeteria? Like, you know, because like even for example, I work in software, and so the buildings I've worked in has always been like occupied by other businesses as well. And software is normally laissez-faire. You know, you don't wear shorts, but you wear like maybe jeans. But then you know, oil and gas companies wearing like, you know, they're full out dressed up.
Yeah.
And so I was wearing what my company cultures, you know, dictated we could wear, jeans. And I could see people in the line looking at me like, oh, look at this black girl. You know, why is she here? Why is she dressed like that? And I always was like, you know what, let me not think that way. You know, maybe they don't think that. But then one day, as I was waiting in line again, someone said, you know, do you work here, or are you kind of like, are you part of the help? Because I need you to throw this in the trash for me.
Wow.
And I said, oh no, I have a degree. I have an honors degree from the University of Houston. I have a geology degree. I work here. And I told him what I do here. And he was just baffled. And I said, but if you want, I can get the help for you. Actually, I don't have time. I'm off to my next meeting. And I turned around and I left. And I saw him, you know, I think a couple months later, and he came up to me and was just like, I really do apologize. I'm like, no, you don't. You're just shocked at the fact that you didn't think I was, you know, what you thought I was.
Shame.
And so it's just really sad that, you know, when I saw the WeWork, I was like, this is what people think, you know, especially when we think about, you know, in the corporate America, people don't think that black people should have degrees and work and, you know, be a lawyer. Like, what are you talking about? You should be in the NBA playing this and playing sports and, you know, modeling or whatever they think, you know. And it's just sad when, you know, just every day, you know, these things happen. The WeWork building is a prime example. This could have been any black person, anywhere. WeWork building is down the street.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's so unfortunate.
I've actually went through that same situation in corporate. It was like an oil company. I'm not going to say their names or anything, but at the same time, though, it was run by this Hispanic woman. And, you know, when we listen to, like in the modern day, we listen to music to get work done. They said it was okay to listen to music, so also get our work done. It was like working on computers and things of that nature and moving boxes. So whenever I think she was like the manager, she was just like going off on me for no reason. And then, like, but she was like going off of me. It was a Hispanic woman. I was just like, there's no reason for you to go off of me. I'm doing my work, and anything you said, I also get it done. And you know me personally, I'm a happy-go-lucky person. So whenever someone like comes at me, I get frustrated. I start crying. So I went outside to like talk to my mother, and then when I had talked to like the higher up, she was just like, basically like, are you like angry? Like, what's wrong at home? Like, basically making me seem like I'm an angry black woman. And I was just sitting there like, yo, that's not me.
You're the person that's
I was being attacked, and you don't see that because of my skin color. And with me, my cousin was the only black person really besides the one that was in the back. And they put her all the way in the back because she's really like a really quiet person. Saying something. I'm just like, no, I'm not an angry black person. I'm a very happy-go-lucky, bubbly person. And so the fact that she looked at me in that way, because for one I was young, for one I was black, and for one, like, I guess someone that was like older kind of like talking down on me. I'm not having you talking down on me, especially, I know we in a corporate job, and I also talk to you with respect.
Right.
But I also want you to talk to me as
But
a
you
brother.
walked out, so.
Yeah, to talk to mom because.
So she didn't see that aggression. Where is she coming from?
No, I guess she heard me from outside because I was upset. But then at the same time, though, like, I'd rather do it outside, talking to someone that can calm me down versus doing, like,
So you're
like
Being healthy, you're venting.
Yeah.
Right,
You're
right,
not taking your,
right.
you're not putting that energy into her.
Exactly.
You're going to someone else who can reciprocate
You're
it.
being a
which-
human being.
Right.
Exactly. I have emotions, you know what I'm saying? And
Right.
whenever
It's
she looking
definitely
down on me and just like talking, like, I was just like, yo, that's crazy. And the first thing to come out was like, why are you so angry? Why are you like so upset? Or you seem like an angry black person. That's not me. Like, you provoked that out of me. And that's just crazy. I had to go through that and actually see that.
You know, I love this conversation because I wanted to say this right here. I know you're going to hear me say that often because these are conversations that we don't have enough of. And we don't talk about the trauma that we've all experienced. And I want,
Because we actually are trying to help them too, because we're trying not to be angry when we
Right.
really think about it.
Right.
That's why they have the right, to be.
We have the
And
right
we're,
to be.
We're
Yes, it's
so
powerful.
above it. We don't even talk about it.
Yeah.
Right, but we
kinda
need
let
to
it
talk
run.
about it.
Exactly.
And you see how that's a powerful bomb that you drop, you know,
Yeah.
because you see how like you have to synthesize or begin to evaluate if your emotion is appropriate based on some label that people have imposed upon you, right?
Yeah.
So I can't be the angry black man, so I gotta make sure, you know,
Smile all
I
the
can't
time.
be the, you understand?
Yeah.
So we don't realize that that's a form of bondage.
Right.
Because if you are experiencing something, you should have the right to express that emotion. Of course, within boundaries and with respect and all of those things. But we have been limited in our ability to express our humanity. That's the essence of slavery. See, we thought slavery was, you know, you go out in the field and pick a cotton or you go to this field,
mental slavery,
right?
modern
But it's
Like
you
Kanye said,
being
new slave.
restricted from being your best self.
Right.
That's why people are saying, I'm living my best life.
Right.
Right? Because
Yeah.
we know that we haven't been able to do that. Right? And I'll close with this, is I think it's very important that we go back to how this country was manifested, even from the standpoint of the Electoral College. And I bring this up because we have an election, the most important election of our lives. And we have the two worst choices we can ever. There's the two worst choices ever.
Wait.
There's the two worst choices ever.
Right?
These two human beings, oh my God, this is pathetic. It's pathetic,
He said with
man.
his heart. Cause
Oh, I'm an angry black man about this. Because this is ridiculous that we have to choose between these two. But we have to make the choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a choice in which we're going to struggle with, and there's going to be a lot of chaos and carnage either way it goes.
Either way.
Right?
Right.
But what we have to be able to say is that good old Joe Biden, as destructive and horrible and horrendous as he has been, he offers us at least an opportunity to have sisters sitting in that room saying, no, Joe. Have an opportunity to say, Barack, no, Joe, right? This is what we need. Whereas this guy we have now, he's a reality TV star. And this is what you get when you get somebody who's a reality TV star.
That's so true.
The
It's a
whole
movie.
entire world is
It
going
is.
crazy right now.
Yeah.
Right? We're waking up in the morning which literally right now we're putting our lives on the line just to live. This is what we're going through right now. And everyone is stressed out. It doesn't matter what money you got or where you live or what you look like.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And we got to attribute that or connect that to leadership and the lack thereof leadership. And I'll close with this. He supported, and we have to understand the power of social media. Social media
Man, it's very
is
powerful.
extremely powerful, and it's limiting black people, and it's supporting those who want to limit black
shutting
people,
down some
and
of the polls.
bring the
That's
Karens and
exactly
the Billies
what I
of the
was
world
talking
back into power
Yeah,
even more. But I say this, I think it's important to understand that this rascal put out a tweet that said, you know, and it's important I bring that up, put
I
out a tweet
remember
that
that,
said he supported some Cowboys and supported some others, and the Cowboys said at a meeting in front of a whole bunch of people, he said, the only good Democrat is a dead Democrat. And I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, none of this stuff. But what I am is aware of now the Democratic Party, as we've seen with the election or the nomination of Joe Biden, is primarily black people, right? Or the black people decide who wins.
Right.
So that's code. That's a dog whistle. That's
Right.
like saying states' rights instead of saying you niggas.
Right.
Right? So when you say a good Democrat is a dead Democrat,
Right.
we know what you really are saying.
Right.
Right, and so what I'm saying is we are in Civil War 2.0, and we need to know that we have to educate, organize, strategize, and protect our lives with the best way possible.
And in closing, Dion, what could you tell, because we have a lot of young listeners as well, so what can you tell them as far as, uplifting them, letting them know what they can do, how they can change in the situation that they find themselves in?
So a few things. I'd like to explain to them or suggest to them that we can't win. No war has ever been won on one front, right? You have to have a multifaceted approach to and strategy into how you win this. So it's important to be out, to be visible, and to protest. But we also need you in these organizations that are doing the work. You don't have to be in my organization. You could create your own organization. But you have to do something more than just this visible space, because this is only going to be for a short amount of time, right? We're only going to be seen as long as it's good for ratings.
Right.
And then once that's not good for ratings anymore, we'll disappear from the mentions, right? And you have to do the important things like making sure that you're voting, make sure that you're being counted. Those are two tangible things that you can do, and they try to take away from you. The second one I'm talking about being counted with this 2020 census. Because I don't think that people understand that if you don't get counted, if we're not counted in this census, it will be 10 years before the dollars that we lose, which is going to be billions, it's going to be 10 years before we have an opportunity for that money to come back. 10 years is devastation. I think they did a study that showed the last. They said the last. The 2010 census. They said it was almost. I think it's 10 million children that didn't get counted. Each one of those kids was $1,600 a year. So you do the math on multiplying that times those 10 million kids, and then it's exponential because it's for 10 years. That money is gone, right? So those are the tangible 1, 2, 3.
Oh, the money into the communities, right?
Correct. Okay. The money, because the money is appropriated by population.
That's right.
How many people are there? The power. How many seats are we going to have in Congress? Congressional leaders are we going to have? Is all based on these numbers.
Representation.
So if you don't get counted in these numbers, we lose power, we lose dollars. The things that you're looking at, you want a new school? Not going to happen. For 10 years, it's not going to happen. Unless they find a way to hey, we're going to build you a school, but then we're going to make you an F-rated school so we can then turn it over to a charter school so they get a new building for free. And they charge us to do the work. But those are some of the tangible things that you can get involved, find you an organization, create an organization, get counted in this census. And I don't care if you don't like your choices, you still got to make a choice for the elections, and especially the local elections. Now, I don't think people understand the power, right? When a lot of other cities are going through things, Houston has been able to weather a lot of storms because of who we have in leadership, because of the people who are in leadership, and that's direct. Those are people that we can walk up and we can see and we can talk, and they make things happen for us if we get out there and we vote.
I think that's important too. We all should vote. I'll admit on my own, I haven't voted as much as I probably should have, just because for the simple fact of, I'm my representation doesn't matter. But it's important that you say that, because hearing you say that, I understand, as I've gotten older, I was what, I am going to vote. I was 18, 19, I was oh no, but it really does matter. And you really have to understand your voice is your voice. It's a frequency, it's an energy, it's a wave. So put your energy towards what you want. Manifest that. We need to not forget, my name's Faith, so we have to manifest and have universal. If we manifest that and manifest love, there's no power stronger than that.
Yeah, because even back then, we used to be 3/5 of the vote. And even then, women couldn't vote back then, but as a man, it was 3/5. So we came a very long way. So I think, like you said, it's very important to vote, especially now that women can vote from different races. And I'm happy to see not only black people are protesting, but so many other races instead. They have brothers, cousins, sisters, best friends that are affected by this and they actually care. So the fact, you're saying humanity is showing and have so much emotions to where we can finally come as one. And it may take some time, it may take some years, but like you said, I'm just really happy to see a whole bunch of people on the streets from even across UK. I just saw like how they're protesting. I was just like, and, you know, and it's not even just like I said, blacks. It's just different races. I'm just really happy to see like finally we're standing up for injustice.
Right.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'll just say real quick with brevity. When we change the way we see things, the things we see change.
Reality is,
And I think it's important for us to be able to understand that these are the moments that we've been waiting on. And I think this moment is waiting for us to step up and to become who we were born and destined to be. Not who we've been controlled and programmed to think we are, but truly who we are. And I think I'll say this in closing, because I think it's apropos and important to begin to think about, is we have somewhere in the area of 60 to 70,000 thoughts. 87% of those are negative, right? And then 90 to 95% of the thoughts that we had yesterday, we'll have today. So as we leave this space, let's begin to think about, are these thoughts empowering us, or are they disenfranchising us? Are they disconnecting us from reality, or are they tapping us into the harsh things that we don't want to deal with? Many of our sisters, I'm just going to be honest, because there's a lot of sisters and then you all are beautiful, but when they see themselves, they don't see a work of art. They see something that's very dark and very ugly. And I think that we have to deal with that. As black men, we've been conditioned to think that we're thugs. We've been conditioned to think that if you're smart and you're intelligent, you're a nerd and you're not of value. And people do things based on rewards, right? You can just look at Pavlov's studies and all of those things. All of the conditioning that people are tapped into, they do things based on a give and take. What will I receive for this, right? What will I earn for this? So if we begin to disparage those that are the brightest, those that bring the most light, those that have the most faith, those that have the most grace, those like Dion that are enlightened and engaged. This dear sister, you dear sister, if we treat you bad because you're a broke artist, then what we are doing is we're disparaging our community and our greatest light workers. So we have to give life. We have to give life to our light workers and love. You know what I'm saying? And I think that will build all of us up. That's right. That's right.
You really break it down.
That's right. That's right. And that's why we got this. Shameless plug. You are powerful. So we can begin to tap into our mind and realize we're powerful.
We are out of time, and this has been, honestly, I think the best episode we've done. You know, hitting on these kinds of points. This is important to us now. It's been important for our past, our present, and our future. So thank you guys for being on the show. I just want to close with everyone just kind of saying your social medias and anything else, any lasting thoughts, and we will wrap up.
Yeah. So this is Dion Dorset. Most importantly, I'd like you to follow the organization. Hall YP is HAUL_YP on Instagram. And you'll find me on there, but the organization is more important. So follow us, get involved, get activated.
What's the name of the organization?
Houston Area Urban League Young Professional. Mouthful. We call it Hall YP.
Okay, and Seth?
Okay, basically you can go to youarepowerful.com, or you can tap into Conscious Mindset, and basically that's a program that we do each and every Sunday. You can go on Facebook or you go on 90.1 KPFT. I'll say this particular Sunday we're going to be talking about, there's a book called Trump Stole the Election of 2020. So I think it's, so you know, I think that it's important that we tap in, and I want to honor you and thank you, dear sister, for being a visionary and for having the vision, and of course, you know, your cohorts for doing something constructive and productive. So tap into the Conscious Mindset and you know, begin to build your mind.
Thank you. And then Faith?
So my Instagram is FaithYSCH. I just want to leave the message of all we are is love, and whatever you want, manifest that. Like faith is the most important thing. If you have any agreement in your mind that you're not beautiful and you're not a vibrant, beautiful being, that's a lie. That's all we are. That's what we come from, is the stars. So what are we? How can we not be?
I love that. Indigo?
Okay. Hi, my Instagram is indigo.lafaith. I call myself Indigo. LaFaith is like, my middle name is LaFaith, and my spiritual name is Indigo, like Indigo Children. Our purpose is to basically come and change the dogma ways of society, and that's what my purpose is. Also be a rainbow child, a star seed, a light worker. Do what makes the country, the city, the whole world better. And it's going to take some time, but we're going to get there soon. And I'm very proud of everyone that's protesting and, you know, putting our positive light out there as we do it.
Grace.
Yes. Hey everyone, I'm Grace_Africa on Instagram and also on TikTok.
TikTok?
I will be back after this live ban that is
You're really banned?
Why you banned?
Girl. You missed it.
Yeah,
but we'll
it's
talk
okay.
about it.
Okay, we're going to talk about it later.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Because of the situation. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, and my name is Issa. You can follow me on Instagram, Life of Issa, so Life of YSA. And this has been The Gist with Issa and Grace. Thank you guys for tuning in.